Hey guys, welcome back to brightnighttech. My name is Berto and today we are working on my 3D printed Batman v Superman cowl. Now this design is pretty cool. I've always loved it, so I'm super excited to work on it. But enough talk, let's get right into it. Alright, I got this file from myminifactory.com from user Carmelo Nazario, and he did an amazing job with this file. There is one thing though, he does have a full model of it in the file that you get, but the sizing is kind of odd. I couldn't get it to work, but he does have one that comes in pieces. Now I opened this up in Mesh Mixer, and the way I did it is, first I opened the face file, I did to import, I did append, and then I did the second piece, and then I did that again, import, append, and did the back piece. You can't see it in the window. Anyway, it puts them together for you, but they're not perfect. Some other files will do it perfectly. This one unfortunately is not, so you do have to align it a little bit. So I went to transform, and then I picked one of the sections, and then I am going to adjust it slightly. So as you can see, it's a little too low, so I'm going to move it up, and it looks like it's moved in a little bit. So now I'm going to move it out, try to line that up as best as I can, and then you would do that same thing with the front piece. I'm not going to do it here, just so you guys can see what happens if you don't. And then you highlight all of them. I hit shift and I push all the pieces, and then I hit combined, and now it is a full whole piece. And then you export it as an STL, and now we're going to open it up in Cura so you can see what it looks like afterwards. All right, here it is, and it's a whole helmet. So in the front piece, you could see that I didn't do the best job because you can still see a line right there, so it's slightly off, and that's okay. And then the back piece, I think you can kind of see a line. So if you take the time and do it right, you can get this perfectly. I did on mine, and yeah, you get a whole helmet. Okay, now I completely forgot to film this thing printing, and I forgot to film me taking off the support. So yeah, this is what it looks like now. We do need to do some cleanup. I am very happy with the way this came out. I have the deburr tool that has been amazing for cleaning up. I'm so happy I got this, and I'm gonna clean up the sides. The whole helmet came out great. There are these tiny little details everywhere that makes it look like flesh. I think it looks really, really cool. But we're gonna do a little bit of cleanup here before we keep going on this, just like that. File it down, get rid of any of those extra pieces. I also did a stand. This is from Sentinel Props. He has a whole thing full of different stands. This is the one for the Batman's Returns symbol. It looks great. I'm not going to worry too much about it. We're just going to do a little bit of primer and then paint it. But yeah. Alright. So I have this wood filler that I normally use. Now I usually only use a little bit of water to revive it when it starts drying out. This one I added a lot of water because I wanted a really watered down version of the wood filler, because there are so many tiny little details here that I don't want to lose. So I don't want to use the thick stuff that I normally do because there is so much detail. So I'm gonna rub this very watered down wood filler all over to see if I can preserve the details all around the helmet. So we're just gonna rub that over, just a really, really thin layer. And there you go. I think it looks great. I can still see a lot of that detail coming through. So we're going to let this dry and then sand it. All right, it's the next day. You can see it looks great. You can still see a lot of that detail. Now we are going to sand it down. Yes, this is 600 grit. It isn't something I recommend. It's just that this is the sandpaper I have left, and I want to use it all up. So we're going to use weird grits. So we're going to go ahead and sand this down the best we can, get it as smooth as possible, and then we are going to do filler primer on this. All right, there we go. It is all sanded out. I am going to hit a few more spots, and then we're going to do filler primer. And speaking of filler primer, we're also going to do it on the stand. There we go. We're just going to do quick little spray. I didn't do wood filler on this because we're not going to spend that much time on it. This the next day, I'm going to give it a quick little sand. Honestly, I didn't have to. I could have just left it like that and it would have been perfectly fine. Okay, here is the next day. I went ahead and sprayed this with filler primer, and we're going to let it dry overnight. All right, it is dried, and now it's time for some sanding. Okay, looks great. Still a little rough there. I didn't get all the spots. I ran out. I'm going to buy a new bottle, but new can. But until then, let's go ahead and sand this down the best we can. Get all those spots, get it nice and smooth. All right, looks good. On top here, you can still see a lot of layer lines. And now because I use such a thin wood filler, I do need to try to grab some of that goopier stuff and try to fill in those really, really deep layer lines on the very top. So I'm gonna grab it from the side of the container where more of the gloopy stuff is, and then we're just gonna glob it on the top because that is where we need to cover those spots. And I'm just gonna go through and do any random spots that need it. Perfect, there we go. We are gonna let it dry and then we're gonna sand that down. All right, so nice and dry. We're gonna sand it. We're gonna get it back to smooth, and then hopefully that top part is nice and covered so we don't see those big old layer lines on the very top of it. Hit all those spots. All right, perfect. I am hitting it with a wet paper towel to get all that dust off. And then I'm gonna take the file and I'm gonna recarve some of these markings and lines because the wood filler and the filler primer, we don't want to fill in some spots. So I'm gonna recarve some of these areas that we don't want to lose some of that detail, just like that. All right, so I went ahead and did more filler primer, sanded it down, and now we're wiping it down just to not bore you. And I think we are ready to paint it. It is raining outside, but I'm sure it'll be fine. All right, it's a little rainy, but it should be fine over here in this corner. It's pretty dry, and we're gonna go ahead and paint it flat black. Okay, it was not fine. The can was about to run out, so it ended up dripping everywhere. And those little dots, I have a new can here. Those little dots are water sprinkles. The wind started and it got all over the helmet. And yeah, I tried to spray it more. It did not help. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry, sand it down again, and then try again. I'm not gonna bore you with that. All right, we're gonna hit it with clear coat. Now I used a matte one. I usually use a chalky matte because the matte one apparently makes it kind of glossy, and it did not turn out the way I wanted. So I am gonna repaint this, and then we are gonna do some glamour shots. And there you have it. As you can see, it looks fantastic with the rest of the helmets back there. And you know, besides trying to paint it while it's raining and then the issue with the clear coat, it was a pretty straightforward project. Not too many things to deal with besides my own mistakes. But let me know if you guys have made this yourselves and how you did it. And thanks for watching. If you have any questions, go ahead and put in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button for notifications. And we will see you next time.